Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Nierenberg, and I'm president of an organization called Food Tank, and our mission is really to highlight stories of hope and success in the food system. I'm thrilled to be here today with these amazing panelists to really discuss the future of food. And thankfully, that's not a complex problem. I'm sure we'll have more than enough time to get into everything, maybe time left over. I'm going to ask the panelists to keep their their answers really short, concise, punchy, and encourage some dialogue on stage, just no fist fights. You can take that outside later. I want to take a minute to introduce everyone. It's a pleasure to introduce Mario Tondato, the Group Chief Executive Officer at Autogrill, which is an Italian-based catering company. We also have Stephen Johnson at the end, President and CEO of HMS Host, a leader in airport dining. Susan Ungaro, the President of the James Beard Foundation and a longtime friend of Food Tank. And my favorite chef, Dan Barber, who is an author, advocate, activist, and runs the restaurants Blue Hill and Blue Hill at Stone Barns. So I'm going to just jump right in to questions. And Jean-Mario, I'm going to start with you. So I get this opportunity to go to Italy 5 or 6 times a year. My life is very hard. And Autogrill is everywhere, but it's not just in Italy. You're working in more than 31 countries, correct? Serving more than 900 million travelers a year. So my question for you is, how is the experience changing for eaters on the move? What is Autogrill doing to really meet demands for healthy, fresh, and geo-conscious food?
Thank you for the question. Let's start with a little bit of history.
Sure.
I still have my Nokia, so here, just to.
Does anyone know what that is?
I go back many years with Steve. We started to work together in 2000, and our world was very different. When we were talking about differentiation in food, it was burger versus pizza versus Asian versus Italian, and a coffee chain that, of course, was Starbucks. Long-lasting relationship with us. Today, we have more than 300 brands in our company, and we operate globally, really an important portfolio brand. What we see coming in the future is another evolution, and the evolution is versus something that is going to become just for you, a real strong customization of the food. And the trends today are very different. Used to be health, used to be linked to calories. Now health is linked to freshness, to clear understanding of the supply chain. Farmers are becoming really extremely important. How we grow things, how we handle the supply chain. That's extremely important. It's becoming extremely crucial. And of course, recycling, that is in our history, is becoming another key element of our way of making business, doing business.
So you mentioned farmers. This is just a short follow-up. Can you talk about how the company, such a big company, is working with farmers?
Yes. One of the things that we did in the last, and I think Steve can expand on that because we're working a lot also in the US on that, but one of the things that we did internally, we developed this internal concept that is called Bistro, that basically 60% of the products are made by a reinvention of an artisanal way of doing the bread. Is a bakery, basically, and that's the base for 60% of what we sell. The other 40% of the products, of the items, are sourced with slow food, and so every single bistro is different. We have 40% of the products that belong to the neighborhood, that really give a different flavor to our offer. And that's what we are trying to do, to stay with a global concept, but also with a real local offer.
Fantastic. Stephen, I just want to turn to you now and maybe build a little bit on what Jean-Mario said, but also talk about this idea of digitalization and what HMS Host is doing and how that's helping customers who are on the go, eat differently, eat better, explore new cuisines?
Sure. I think I'll be the one to break it to Dan that no longer celebrity chef's going to be the thing. It's going to be celebrity farmers, believe it or not. So we're, as a country, I think we're curious about where our food's coming from, and we want to know how it was grown, how it was done. I mean, as a company, we became curious about 3 or 4 years ago, saying, let's try new things. Let's put new products into our supply chain. And one of those is we're working with the bread lab. We're trying to recreate bread. This convention's about the future, but really we're stepping back. Why are we having all the issues with bread? It used to be part of our food pyramid. Now it's gone, right? It's no longer healthy for us. It's because we've overprocessed it, right? Bread should be healthy. So we're going back and working with the food lab and saying, let's recreate bread, and we'll put it on our sandwiches. We're in 2,000 restaurants. We serve a lot of sandwiches. So that's an exciting thing for us. I think we're looking at probiotic shots. We're looking at kombucha cocktails so that you can actually have a cocktail that's healthy for you, right? How great would that be? You sit at the bar, you feel like this is a vitamin. I mean, this is fantastic. So I think we're really focused on changing how people travel and how healthy it is to travel. I think Eat Well, Travel Further is something. You guys are all going to have lunch after this. You're going to be able to taste some of these products. But Eat Well, Travel Further was bento boxes, paleo bento boxes, protein bento boxes, things that are great for people on the move. And you talked a little bit about digitalization. I think that for us, we've talked a little bit about what is, today in this conference, what does kiosk ordering mean for our business, right? And our belief is that digitalization and technology are an enhancement to hospitality. They are not a replacement for hospitality. Mm-hmm. But kiosk ordering is here. It's a reality. We've learned some interesting things with kiosk ordering. The check average goes up. Why? Because the machine upsells you every time. And secondarily, believe it or not, when you're ordering and it asks you if you want the apple pie, you're not being judged by that person across the counter. So you hit, yeah, I'll take the apple pie. So we're seeing that. But really, I think how we're going to really change how people travel. The Business Journal, we didn't know this, believe it or not, until about 2 years ago. We were the #1 company on expense reports in the United States. So it's more than Marriott, more than anything else, it's HMS Host. Now, you may all know us as Starbucks, as all these 300 brands that we operate, but it's HMS Host. So we have this incredible network out there. So we're launching an app called Host to Coast. Well, Host to Coast is not going to be just about pre-order and pay, which it will, which is fantastic. It's not going to be about the restaurants you can visit in an airport, which is great, but it's going to be customizable so that when you walk through the door, let's say you're a vegan, or you eat gluten-free, or you're on a paleo diet, or whatever it may be, you can put that into the system. You can hit, I'm at Chicago O'Hare Airport. Where are the 6 places I can eat that meet my requirements? Mm-hmm. We all travel. How hard is it to get a good, healthy meal when you travel? It's difficult some days. Host to Coast is going to allow you to walk into an airport and do that right when you walk through the door, so that there is a place I can eat. There's a place I can fuel myself and still feel good while I travel.
Absolutely. So Dan and Susan, we've heard about these trends in food that John Mario and Stephen have talked about. I'm interested, you're both on the front lines of trends in food, and I want to know what you think the biggest trends 10, 20, 100 years from now will be in food, whether it's sustainability or, emphasizing foods that would, be wasted if they weren't utilized at Dan's pop-up restaurants. What are the biggest trends you're both seeing?
Susan?
Well, first of all, we know that 70% of Americans have changed their diets to eat healthier in the past 3 years. Just that alone. 35% of women are now vegetarians. But I think the key thing about the future is that people are more engaged in taste and in what they care about. And we've heard that we're all hearing about the rise of fast casual, and certainly to be able to eat well and healthy on the go in airports, all of us are for that. It's a really wonderful thing. But I think that the growth of the fast casual is going to be fast, healthy casual, or fast fine casual, that even in the most wonderful top James Beard Award or Michelin star restaurants, that chefs are seeing a change in how Americans, especially under age 40, want to eat, but they really want to know their food. And I think that's the best thing of all, that people really care. Like you mentioned about farmers. Well, we know farmers have been the new celebrity for a while. At the James Beard Foundation, we've given awards, and chefs are noting the farms on there. You know, everybody, you can't go to a restaurant now and not see where your food comes from. Most ones, even fast food chains, are telling us where, you know, the French fry potatoes came from today. So I think all that is really great. But the other thing I think about the future is that we're going to be looking at opening our minds to different kinds of ingredients. I mean, for instance, you know, Asian cultures. I can see bars today have peanuts, right, when we have our beer or our wine or our sodas. I bet even 10 years from now there'll be salty crickets at the bars.
Dan?
Yum.
Right?
Yeah.
They're
Delicious.
good.
Well, my prediction for the future is that we're doing.
Yeah.
You covered a lot of ground there. I agree with almost everything you said there.
But take it to 100 years. What do you see 100 years from?
100?
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think about dinner tonight. I don't know. Well, I can dial back to last night when I tasted this carrot that came out of the field. It's the first carrot. We've had like almost frost up at where I have a restaurant 30 miles from here, and there's a farm attached to the restaurant. And so we've waited for these carrots to be picked when the cold hits. And when the cold hasn't quite hit, but we had about 38 degrees the other night, 39 degrees. It was almost freezing. When it freezes, the starches convert to sugars, and you get a carrot that is, you know, a carrot times 2. It's literally sugar, because it converts starch sugars to prevent ice crystallization in its root exchange, so that you have a carrot that's actually trying to survive, and what you're tasting is sweetness. What the carrot is telling you is it doesn't want to die. Anyway, so I taste this carrot, and it struck me that delicious is the sustainable trend food thing of the future. I think that the understanding of truly delicious, not what industry will tell you is delicious, well, with chefs actually, because we curate this stuff every night, and we are a bellwether for a soothsayer is what delicious is. Because if you look at the correspondence between delicious and sustainable, it's not a loose connection. Just that carrot, for example, you know, to taste as jaw-dropping delicious as it did, I said the ecological impacts of that almost freeze. But also, you know, the soil had to be there to express those flavors. It had to be amended correctly. So there had to be rotation of diversity of vegetables and grains and animals who provided the manure for the compost to amend that soil in a way that got us carrot to taste so well. So again, jaw-dropping and delicious. The seed for the carrot had to be right. So it was it wasn't a modern seed that was built for, engineered for monoculturing and to be grown in Mexico and Canada and China and deliver the same carrot. This is a carrot that was bred for the Northeast and expressed itself in a way that it did, and then it was local, and it was of the moment, and it was picked in a way that I said at the perfect moment, but also it got right to us. So that correspondence of all those things, when you bring in the environment, you bring in actually social justice issues very quickly, because it's somebody who's not machine harvesting, but someone who's being paid to do it and being paid at a fair wage. All of that kind of corresponds around a truly delicious carrot. So I think chefs do play. I have a nod to the farmer there, but I have a nod to chefs because chefs are curating this, and that through line to the right way the world is used and delicious flavors is very clear. I think it's becoming clearer to people, and that would be my prediction for tomorrow.
Absolutely, and thank you for emphasizing that sustainable food can also be tasty.
And that we tend to think there's a divide, but actually that's a false divide.
And that you can honor the farmers in a way that's respectful, where they're making a fair wage, that you're acknowledging sort of every part of it, the soil and everything else. So I kind of want to turn that question to Jean-Mario and Stephen. In your restaurants and what you're doing, how does sustainability fit in? You've both talked about it a little bit more, but I'd love to hear what your definition of sustainability for the company is. Obviously, you have an economic angle, but you know, you're also thinking about environmental sustainability and social sustainability as well.
Yes. Let me touch base with one channel in our business, because we operate restaurants in airports, motorways, and railway stations. Let's talk about the motorways, for instance, where really we are in charge also of the building. And when we think, and actually Delaware House and in the US, or Villoresi in Milan, close to Milan, when we think, when we build something for the future, especially in the motorway business, what we think is really how we can make it sustainable. And three are the things that we are working on. The first is energy. So the idea, the brief that we gave to our engineers was, let's try to build something that doesn't need external energy to be run. So air conditioning. We didn't achieve the target, of course, because it was too stretched. Probably we cut actually 50% of the energy needed to run every single plaza. With a combination of all the new technologies, rainfall, for instance, collection, geothermal, normal stuff. The second challenge was water. 80%, almost 70 to 80% of the drinkable water that we use in a plaza is because of the toilet. And that's really, if you think, especially in the medium long term, is something that we have to change. So we designed really a waterless toilet that is working very well, and is really.
You designed that.
Yeah, we did. No, we did. It's on a massive scale, really, so it's not. The third thing is the use of waste. So, for instance, now we are testing the most important product that we sell is coffee. So we are trying to reuse the waste of coffee and building furniture, building tables, for instance, and that's what we're working on. So it's a constant development that we're thinking, and that's what we think is also good for the business.
Absolutely.
Because if we are not sustainable in the long term, we are out of business. There's no question about that.
Stephen, do you want to comment on that as well?
I'll talk a little bit more about the supply chain, and I think how we've looked at it very differently. I talked a little bit about the scale of the company. It's 99 airports, it's 100 travel plazas, it's a very large organization with thousands of restaurants. In the old days, everything was really coming in frozen. It was freezer to fryer, and that's how we fed people, because it was the most efficient way. And I would say about 5 years ago, we changed that model and really turned it on its head, so that everything that was fresh was procured within roughly 100 miles of the airport. So that included dairy, that included all of our vegetables. It created a mass problem for us in the beginning until we figured out the logistics of this. But it changed. I agree with Dan. The product was so much better tasting instead of a frozen carrot that comes in, or even our proteins were coming in frozen, and so we're buying not all of them, because some restaurants won't let us, but most of them are coming in fresh. So the taste difference when you fly through an airport, it used to be such a dreaded thing, right? That the food is so awful and I don't want to eat there. That's not the case anymore. There's some wonderful chefs that we're working with. When you fly through the airports today, our belief is that the airport looks like the city it represents. Yeah. So that you taste the LA and LAX, right? Phoenix, one of my favorite programs ever, all local chefs running those restaurants. These people are brilliant. They find and procure the products. We work with their supply chains. We work with our supply chain as well for some of the standard products. But it really has changed how people are eating and using our airports. It's not everywhere yet, but it's in 80% of our airports today.
That's fantastic. So Susan, you work with chefs who might end up being at some of these, airport dining facilities. Can you talk about the importance of integrating sustainability into what chefs are doing every day? I know James Beard has the Smart Catch program. You've been doing a lot on food waste.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about those initiatives?
Well, first of all, our foundation, what we do best is learn from what chefs do. So reducing food waste, I think about everybody in this audience. You probably feel guilty when you don't recycle, right? Well, I predict that you're going to feel guilty as the years go by when you are throwing out food that could be used in alternate ways. And Chef has, I had a sort of an epiphany moment one time tasting some of the recipes and things you did to show how you can reduce food waste, making burgers from juice extracts. Maybe you can talk about that. But what I really feel about the sustainability aspect is, 10 years ago, no one was even using that word. It's become a consumer-friendly word. We all think about it, not only about food, but about a lot of other practices in our world. And I think the whole idea of reducing food waste, cooking in season, reducing carbon emissions in terms of why local is better when you can do it, is all going to be embraced by the public. But most of all, I feel like chefs have really been they're the leaders. And every movement starts with the people who are closest to the need to change.
Thank you.
Bravo. So,
a smart catch. One.
Yes, please.
So, we think about sustainable food in, meat and vegetables, and but seafood too is like sort of the new sustainable mandate. And we started a program called Smart Catch, working with Monterey Bay Aquarium. And basically, what we're doing is we're working with about 300 chefs, and the numbers are growing, to help them assess, are they serving the best sustainable seafoods in their restaurants. And there's a great app, Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Catch app.
Yes.
Look at it. When you're out shopping or when you're dining, and you're thinking about ordering, cod or shrimp or lobster or tuna, you can actually see what kind are the best sustainable seafood in America.
Absolutely, and there's no excuse because you're all walking around with your smartphones, whether you're shopping or eating or doing whatever.
Right.
So do it. So this is Tech Fest, right? So I'm really interested in hearing from Jean Mario, how technology will affect food delivery. We've heard a lot about drones and food delivery. Can you talk about how this new mobility will change the way the company is, getting food to where it needs to go? Yeah.
There is this research made by McKinsey, I think, that says that 70%, something like that, of the jobs in our industry are going to be affected. I don't know what it means, but changed by technology. Kiosks, for instance, we were talking this morning, somebody was, and it's really something real, So it's upselling the normal cashier person that is at the cash register, and so technology is really having a big impact. I think it's an opportunity in our sector. I think it's a real opportunity. The connection with it let us understand much better what the consumer wants. So it's really a tool that can enhance the experience of the customer. That's what we think. And I think with our network and host to cost in the US, it will be really a step up in the experience, really, for the travelers. No question about that. And for us, technology is also, we are celebrating also our 40th anniversary. It's a new beginning, really.
Sure.
It's giving us new angles to develop the relationship with the customers, new angle to develop also the relationship with our suppliers. Really. It's much faster, much easier to understand. So.
Absolutely. So Stephen, can you talk a little bit about how technology is changing the way you do business? I mean, we've seen the robot, or we'll see her at lunch. And,
we'll see her at lunch again,
and there was this viral video that you're in talking to the robot. So I'd love to hear more about that.
I think that, it's going to change how our people are used, I think, more than anything else. I think we have, in this country for a long time, undervalued the true talent in our restaurants. The talent in our restaurants are the people who make your food, right? And as more technology comes in, and as you put the ability in the hands of the consumer to order their food, to prepay for their food, you're going to need a different kind of kitchen. You're going to need a bigger kitchen because you can start to process more orders at once. So technology is going to change. I think we have a Starbucks representative here, but they found that out with their mobile order and pay. It's changed how the Starbucks unit's being used, because now more orders are coming in at once. So in reality, you have to build a bigger engine, but you don't have to build a bigger front of house. So you're going to need less of the customer service worker and more of the actual people who are making the food. So I envision, believe it or not, a place in an airport where you walk through, you order your food, and it's just a pickup counter. That's all it is. And there is no front of house. There's nothing else except your food is ready for you, it's on the go, and I'm walking to my airplane now, because everything is so time driven. I don't know that that will pick up out on the street, but I certainly do think in airports, because everything's driven by my flight leaves in 36 minutes. I have to be there. I need something now, and I need something healthy, fresh, and good. And I'm willing to walk to a counter and pick up and go.
I would just
Please.
like to just make a stab at maybe at a technology conference and talk against technology for the future of deliciousness for a moment. Just in the sense, I think we're too enamored with the idea that there's a technological fix for biological problems. There isn't really, actually. There are ways to make service easier, and there are definitely ways to make food production on an agricultural level more efficient with technological advance. There's no question about it. But our level of being enamored by the latest technological whiz-bang application to improve soil nutrition and improve sustainability and cut down on food waste, it's crazy, really. And I think one of the things is, part of this is cultural. We have a language for technology, and we have a deference for those who are in the tech world in a way that I find kind of, I don't want to say depressing, but I'll just set it. So, why aren't we as enamored with the biological workings?
Right.
Because land and resiliency don't work like computer programs. And the true genius actually is learning about those kinds of systems. They are actually very inefficient by design. And working in that inefficiency, working with that inefficiency, is I think the true brilliance for the future of good food. So I would just put that in to skewer all the
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more, Dan Barber. I also want to add that personal connection to food, what you and Susan do so well, is also very important. And we don't want that to get lost.
Yeah, I'd like to just say I totally agree that, and I think the other future is that we're going to be more mindful about what we're eating. And along with technology, I think we're seeing a lot more of a Zen focus in our society, that people really understand the community of food and conversation and diplomacy around a table, and that we are, even through technology, we're thinking more about food, and hopefully it'll also be that we'll be more mindful about how we eat.
What a great point to end on, the diplomacy of food in this really unstable political environment. So thank you. I want to thank all of our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.